Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series. Today is our 73rd week series and our speaker is Dr. Mahesh Kaul. And the topic during this Kashmiri Pandit Hindu Holocaust month of January is Genocidal Attrition of Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir. As always, we begin with our prayer. Today is going to be by Srimati K. Radhika. Radhika started her Carnatic vocal lessons under Tirukkodikkaval Papa Subramanian and currently undergoing advanced training from Vidushi Amrut Venkatesh. Radhika performed in all our Chennai Sabhas and in the prestigious Navaratri Mandapam at Thiruvananthapuram during Navaratri. And she got first prize in all competitions she participated and MS Subbulakshmi Scholarship Award from Mumbai Shanmugananda Sabha. And she left her corporate IT job just to pursue her passion, which is Carnatic music. Radhika is a B high-grade artist in AAR, Trichy. Thanks for joining, Radhika. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shanti nilava vendum, engum shanti nilava vendum, Atma Shakti Yonga Vendum, Ulagile Shanti Nilava Vendum, Gandhi Mahatma Kattalai Yadave Karunai Utrumai Kadiroli Paravi Shanti Nilava Vendum. கொடுமை செய்தியோர் மனமது திறந்த நற்குணம் அதை புகட்டிடுவோம் மடமையச்சம் அறுப்போம் மக்களின் மாசிலா நல்லொழுக்கம் வளர்ப்போம் திடம் தரும் மஹிம்சா யோகி நம் தந்தை ஆத்மானந்தம் பெறவே கடமையில் மறவோம் அவர் கடன் தீர்ப்போம் களங்கமில் அறம் வளர்ப்போம் எங்கும் சாந்தி நிலவ வேண்டும் ஆத்ம சக்தி ஓங்க வேண்டும் உலகிலே சாந்தி நிலவ வேண்டும் எங்கும் சாந்தி எங்கும் சாந்தி எங்கும் சாந்தி.
Mahesh ji, I hope you figured that out. It's a Tamil song. Let there be peace everywhere. That is song.
Exactly.
Thank you, Radhika. Look forward to seeing you again in our program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We thank Sri Kanchi Mutt for our ongoing Kashmir initiatives and offer our Namaskaram to His Holiness Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswathi Swamigal. Kanchi Mutt has always been in the forefront, modestly working with the sole aim of national integration, spiritual enlightenment, and preserving the uniqueness of Kashmir, as Kashmir is our cultural heritage. We are now very pleased to welcome Dr. Mahesh Kaul. This is Mahesh ji's third appearance in our series, and so needs no introduction. However, I want to share this with our viewers We are so saddened to hear the news that his dear father passed away just a few days ago, on to be exact, on Wednesday. And while I was going to cancel today's program as a mark of respect to his father, Mahesh ji sent me this message. I'll read out. My father is my guru who taught me to uphold dharma at all costs. He said only dharma sustains, so never betray me. Keep me in your works. I'll always hold your hand. So it's my tribute to him today. That's what Mahesh sent me. He suffered displacement and lost everything, raising me in rented rooms till now. Mahesh ji, your appearance today, I'm sure, is a great tribute to your dear father. Our sincere condolences, and your zeal in continuing your mission is a call to everyone. We want our Kashmiri Pandit community to go back to their roots and start living in the place where they belong rightfully. Mahesh ji, what a coincidence about the topic during this month of January. I didn't realize that, but it so happened. So once again, thank you for your determination to join today, in spite of what's going on in the family. And again, our condolences. And it's very appropriate that you're joining us today, especially on this month that we all come to know now. No, just one quick question. Is it because of the media that people are getting to know that this is genocidal month, January?
First of all, namaskar to all. Pranams at the feet of His Holiness Shankaracharya Ji Maharaj, the Peetadhipati, the Kamakoti TV, you, of course. So wonderful rendition of this Tamil song. I was so moved in this somber moment because I'm going through a very difficult phase. My father passed away on 18th. He was in his good senses at last. He was indisposed for long, but due to fracture. But now he was, you can say, a generation, first generation of genocide survivors. Then second is ours, and third is the post 90 generation. So it's not that through TV or through media we came to know, but it has always been there from 1990 that people started talking about the genocide. Because the people, when we came out of Kashmir in 1990, it was a very difficult phase because at that time there was no social media. There were no, you can say, WhatsApps or other applications that could convey what's happening in different parts of the country. But the media was gagged, but it was the people when they started pouring out, reached to different parts of the country. Even some of the people reached to the Tamil Nadu or to the southernmost part of the nation. But it was only when people came in contact with these people, these simple people who had never ventured out of this the Himalayan region, crossed the Jawahar Tunnel. But it was for them a shock because who had never crossed these ice-peaked mountains and so serene valleys. But they were coming up with a hope that this attrition that I call genocidal attrition will end in 2 or 3 months. It's a law and order issue. But it was unfortunately not law and order issue. It was genocidal attrition imposed by the jihadi forces, I call adharmic forces, to annihilate the Sanskrit civilizational traditions of Bharat in Jammu and Kashmir and the Himalayas. So now it has got traction because due to social media, people are coming to know, and there are so many people, you rightly said, that they don't know what has happened in Kashmir. Even in this third generation, people ask me recently in some deliberations, what happened to Kashmiri Pandits after Kashmir Files? I said that it was going on, but sure that when multimedia or media organizations, or you can say the cinema tries to project things, and unfortunate part in India is that until and unless a cinematic version doesn't come out in the domain, people don't accept neither reality and the fiction. It is just only one person. But it is only the matter of time, Desha and Kala, that people come to know. So even at this moment, I am very emotional because it was the month of January when in 1990 the whole of the Kashmir was reverberating with the sounds of the Allahu Akbar, infidels leave Kashmir, Asigas Pakistan, Batauros Batneosan, it means in Kashmiri, we want Pakistan with Kashmiri Pandit women but not with their men. What does it mean? It's a genocidal declaration. Genocide doesn't mean only to kill the people, annihilate the people with their guns or to kill a group of people. Genocide means capturing of the social space, capturing of the place consciousness, violation of the aesthetics, destruction of the temples, destruction of your livelihood and habitat, this a restriction on your movement. So this was all a genocidal attrition that fructified. So we have to understand this thing. And I want to make an opening remark that that whole thing was, you can say, gagged in Kashmir, rest of India, because and ultimately what happened, the people in the political domain, the political class of India across the divide, whether it was left, right, or center of the Indian political class that I call Indian state, it denied this genocide and called and trivialized it as law and order issue. When you trivialize or deny a genocide, when genocide is denied, it duplicates, it replicates. It was denied in Kashmir, and after 32 years back, you saw it in West Bengal, you saw it in other places, Assam and other way. So now the nation is realizing that if what happened in Kashmir, it would have been insulated there, this cancer would not have spread to rest of India and posed a challenge that I very openly called from the desanskritization of Himalayas, it has graduated to desanskritization of India as a whole. Because if you are not able to hold the northern frontier, that is the Himalayas, that is the nervous system of India, you are not going to save the body. When nervous system is paralyzed, this hit, whole body is paralyzed. That's what happened. It was Kashmir is not only the crown of India, it's the nervous system of India. Because from Acharya Abhinav Gupta, Utpala Deva, and other great scholars of Kashmir Shaiva tradition and Advaita tradition who flourished in Kashmir, they give traction to this whole this muscle, the spiritual muscle of India. And when this was, you can say, ruptured in the Himalayas, it led to the paralysis of the whole system. And that's why we say that it was a violation of the place consciousness and aesthetics.
No, the reason I mentioned a small incident, anything happening today, it's known the next minute. People wouldn't have imagined. Now people are coming to know one by one what went wrong, even though that was close to some 30 years ago. Now people are realizing the extent, and then it is forgotten for most of them, and some are not even seriously looking at it. And so this has to be told and retold, and then till people get it.
Exactly. Very right. What you are saying, it's what actually should be done to defeat genocide. When truth telling is the only remedy to defeat genocide. That's why I said you're absolutely true. Truth telling is the basic cause for the reversal of genocide. A genocide cannot be reversed unless you take the testimonies, you relate the stories, you hear the stories, and that was denied in Kashmir, absolutely. And the reason you know very well, the atmosphere, the political atmosphere, and the governance was not favorable. The worst part, which I mentioned in my book also in 2020, that there is a subversion. Instruments of the Indian state have been utilized to wreck the Indian nation from within. And that has caused this whole process. When a kind, you can say, after abrogation of Article 370, or you can say neutralization of Article 370 and 35A, gave a lease of life to the nationalist forces, that it will somehow reverse the genocide. So this article was actually sustaining a Pakistan within the political ambit of India, within the constitutional ambit of India, and ultimately it was starting to wreck the nation from within. Now the next thing, I think that thing can help to this defeat genocide only when then there is a difference between de facto and de jure neutralization of 370. Not only you can say neutralizing 370, there has to be a need to restore the infrastructure and superstructure which has been ruptured. You cannot make Kashmiri Pandit to go to Kashmir until and unless his habitat is restored. And it has to be restored ab initio. It doesn't mean just few employments, because they were having employments, orchards, businesses, services, everything, their mohallas or localities. But everything has vanished. You have to create a new. For that, you need empowerment. And that empowerment needs not only employment, that needs political empowerment, cultural empowerment, religious empowerment, economic and educational empowerment. It means that all these systems have collapsed, and even social empowerment. You need a full ecosystem. That ecosystem has to be created where Kashmiri Pandits can govern themselves, have the decision making power. They are not made again subservient to the subversive power structure that was annihilating them. So, that is the challenge in this genocidal attrition. You can imagine, I will go back to 19 January 1990. That is observed as Kashmiri Hindu or Pandit Holocaust Day. Because it was on this day, all across the length and breadth of the Kashmir Valley, the masjids, the mosques were reverberating with the slogans which were anti national, which were anti Hindu, which were anti Dharma, and those slogans came simultaneously at one time. When we were small kids, I was a fourth standard kid at that time. People huddled their children in their one rooms. It was a January month, and people came out on streets to protest. All the mosques, all across, because those days there were no mobile phones, exactly nothing. But there used to have, there were some mobile phone, this landlines in the locality. One or two neighbors having that, and that was a common phone for everyone. When people try to inquire, what is happening in Anantnag is the same happening in Ranavari, is the same happening in this. Habba Kadal is the same happening in Karfali Mahalla, is the same happening in Shopia, is the same happening in Badgam, is the same happening in other places, Sora. So when this panic ruptures, you can imagine what kind of planning had gone into it. People were taking rallies in the boats in the riverine systems. So one more thing that's very important. In Kashmir, in winter months, there used to be thefts, because thieves got an ample space to act, because people used to be inside. There were total vacuum outside due to the -degree temperatures. So on that night of 19 January 1990, there is not a single FIR in any police chowki or station of Kashmir of theft or anything or fire. So what it means, that what was the meticulous planning? These people had decided that every kind of person will join these, you can say, a kind of rioting, and without disturbing anything, they converged. Their houses were left open, they came out, but no theft, no robbery, no, you can say, stabbing or any kind of incident took place. Otherwise, it was a phenomenon. It has to be inquired who made this planning, that all energies were focused to disturb the stay of Kashmiri Pandits or any kind of Hindus in Kashmir, whether they were serving in Kashmir or others. So that is a million-dollar question. Nobody has inquired about it, how whole valley plunged into this chaos. And when the other day we came to know, we thought that there was something which was brewing, but people said even audio cassettes were played from the masjids, where it seemed that if the thousands of people had gathered, it was a kind of well orchestrated jihadi machination to create panic, to declare that they have taken over the valley. There was no rule of law, there was no security. And after that, we witnessed the brazen killings, arson, loot, plunder, and bloodshed.
I was going to tell you that even a small, we have the best police in the state, in many states rather, and we meet with police personnel quite often. One phone call, in 5-10 minutes, we'll get the police. So during that time, like you said, no FIR, you couldn't call anyone at that time?
Well, if anyone had a landline at his home, he was calling someone. He said that same is happening at my place. Same is happening others' place. And nobody was responding. Even if somebody was responding, there is an incident by some fellow. He was in the defense forces. He had retired. He tried to call this this people. So let me retrieve my family, because people were attacked at some places. So even he could not get the assistance. Being influential, being in the system, he said that how the way the people were targeted, there was nobody to take, because even the people who were in the system, they were supporting them, and they had in a way in protest, given up their duties, and they were supporting these rioters outside so that they can have a free run. Nobody was attending the emergency calls in hospitals and other things. So you can see how this was planned. This was planned at a very larger scale, so that on 19th January, Kashmir is declaring jihad against India and infidels. So they had done it meticulously. They had paralyzed the system, emergency system. They had paralyzed the police system. Their people were inside. They had paralyzed the intelligence system. Even Amarjit Singh Dulat, who was supposed, I think that he was IB chief, he has been the raw chief also in his book Vajpayee Years, said many things about Kashmir. That he had those inputs, but he was not able to act. If he had the inputs, why he was not acting, why his personnel were not acting, that is a very dangerous design. That exposes how deep was the rot. Not only the local, the kind of push, the kind of penetration in the system, even the people from outside were having a free run. The people who were at the helm of the affairs, they were facilitating the subversion through the locals. There was nobody from outside who came, you can say, across the borders. The local majoritarian population was involved in this wholesale genocidal attrition. And the people who were in the system supposed to act for the state of India were acting as collaborators of the subversives. That is the great tragedy of the Indian state in 1990 that catalyzed, facilitated the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits and subjected them to internally displaced people in their own country, own nation, within the boundaries of their own nation.
I think there is an observation here. It says, can say some people of Kashmir were hand in gloves with the Pakistan government, hence they took advantage of that, of attacking the people. Sounds like what you are explaining.
Yes. The question is partially true, or the observation I can say is partially true, because there is a misconception in the Indian masses that it is the people from Pakistan who came and sabotage the system. No. There were infiltrations. There have been militants who have been coming across. Terrorists, I can say, not militants. The jihadis, that is the exact term. But it is a local support structure, local human resource. Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, that was the forerunner, that is the starter of this campaign in Kashmir, or Al-Fatah group. They were all local boys. They went over. The cadres were local. Then even Hizbul Mujahideen, that was created later as a competitor to JKLF, because JKLF was saying clearly that we want independence from India. Though their ideological things were same, but the objective was independence from India. Hizbul Mujahideen was created again by Pakistan. They said we want merger with Pakistan. They went a first step ahead. But JKLF by proxy was doing the same thing. So boys were locals. There is a book called Kashmir Underground by a very famous, you can say, journalist and a scholar, Satpal Sani, popularly known as Sati Sani in the circles. He has covered almost every war that has happened from World War I onwards till 90. Basically, what has happened, it's a local infrastructure. Local boys were trained, they came in. It's not only few Pakistani people. Pakistan was providing logistics, trainings, moral, financial, and other sports, propaganda sport, even training sport across the borders. But they gave them certain mercenaries from outside were also there. But the majority of the people, they were all locals, local Kashmiris. They were doing it because they knew the target well. Even now, the hybrid terrorists that are coming up, they're also the local people. So this misconception, you can say, at this in the 32nd year of this genocide or the internal displacement or exodus, people are still thinking that it was some Pakistanis. No, it is the local infrastructure, local human resource. They are takers and they are the givers. So this is a very dangerous game that has never been understood by the people in India at large.
So people of your age, everything is so much really etched in their memory, and that is why you're able to speak with all the details that you witnessed, most of them?
Exactly. Most of the people who are of my age, who were more, you can say 8 years of age or 9 years of age at that time, they have vivid memories. And then there was a generation who were college-going people. They are more vivid generation. Then our elders, like my father who passed away yesterday, longing for his homeland, longing for his home, his memories, how these things really hurt him. Many of my father's age. So what is it? This genocide is etched in the memory of everyone because we are living genocide every day. People are afflicted with disease, displacement disease, I call them, because due to you can hypertension and other things. When you lose the habitat, the climate is not suitable, the conditions are not suitable, avenues are not suitable. You lose your near and dear ones, they get scattered. What genocide does? It disintegrates the people in terms of society and in terms of also political moorings. That is truth about every genocide survivor. So when this happens, the ultimately the memory fades in the new generation. But my faith, and you can say what I have felt, the more you go away from your homeland, there is a law of reverse action. The people, more they are far from their civilizational moorings, more they are attracted at times. Because what you perform, your ritual system, your karma kanda, your other things, Greh Sutras, they bind you. Because whatever we follow the Logakshi's Greh Sutra in Kashmir, the Greh Sutras, whether it's Shivratri, other festivals, Shishir Sankranti, or other festivals you call, this Magha Mantha going on, other things that bind you. The ritual system has kept us intact. We have an almanac that is called Panchang, that is Saptarishi Samvat, that binds us to it. That's in the 5,000 year. This our Panchang goes on for 5,000 years scientifically. So we have seen 7 genocides in Kashmir. This is the 7th one. It started with the advent of Islam in 14th century. And one more thing I want to stress. You have asked a very pertinent question. Whether it's etched in the memory or not, if I am speaking, I think almost every generation of Kashmiri Pandits has etched in his memory some kind of genocide. 7 genocides have taken place. There are 5 Rajataranginis. People are very much having a misconception. There is only one Rajatarangini by Kalhan. There are 5. First was by Kalhana. That is, says everything was hunky-dory at his time. There was metamorphosis. There were philosophical undertones, competitions. That goes on in every, you can say, society. Or there takes place cultural exchanges between different sects or other things. But there are other Rajataranginis. Rajatarangini by Kalhan, Jonraja, Shrivar, Pragyabat, and Shuka. The Rajatarangini by Jonraj is a very important Rajatarangini, and I consider it more important than the Kalhan's Rajatarangini, because the things which are documented in normal, prosperous, and happy times are easy to document. The things which are documented in turmoil, genocide, and human massacres and rights are very difficult. And that too when the governance, the state apparatus is not with you. So this Rajatarangini was written by Jonraja, who was a historian, and that is less poetical. Kalhan's Rajatarangini is very, you can say, decorated one, but this is very blunt. It coins the term, that's a very interesting thing, that term genocide was given by Raphael Lemkin. He was a Jew. He was also a genocide survivor. He was a social scientist. He was a psychologist. He was a genocide scholar. That's a great thing for the world that he documented or coined a term for this human tragedy. But you must say that what happened, Jonraj Rajtarangni says, what has happened to Pandits or Hindus or Dharmis of Kashmir is Jati Vidvans. Mark my words. Jati Vidvansa. Jati Vidvans says when a Jati is demolished. Jati means a particular people who are aborigines who are demolished. Temples, mandirs, etc., lifestyles. He says at that time it was Zainul Abidin, who was also known as Badshah. He belonged to the dynasty of Sikandar Butshikan, Sultan Sikandar, iconoclast. He was later in his generation. He, under his patronage, he wrote, but see the courage of Jonraj, he documented this genocide. He said, Jati Vidvans is the appropriate term to describe the condition of Hindus or Pandits of Kashmir. And Jati Vidvans is the accurate term for describing genocide. So it answers your question. Do Kashmiri Pandits remember it? Yes. If Kashmiri Pandits in the times of Jonraj, or if Jonraj says that it is Jati Vidvans, imagine how Kashmiri Pandits decoded genocide. They decoded it. They gave a term much before Lemkin that it's Jati Vidvans. So Jati Vidvans is happening with Pandits. It's going on. It has not been reversed. It needs reversal only when you get a foothold in Kashmir that is safeguarded by political, social, economic, and religious rights, where they can govern their lives with the religious, or you can say not religious, but dharmic freedom.
There are lots of messages coming now. Ajita Sundaraman is asking, where can we read about the 7 genocides? She also mentioned that it's all not available anywhere. Kashmiri Underground, relevant reading material being systematically removed.
Yet I will like to answer that. There is a website called by a very good, you can say, I can call him computer technocrat. He is the person, he has done a wonderful work. He, even in 1990s, let me credit that person. If he's listening to me, and it's a very important question this person has raised, and you are asked. I am fortunate I am just disclosing. Mr. Sunil Fotedar, he lives in USA. I call him modern day Kalhana of Kashmir, because he was at that time he was a very good student, very good scholar. He did his engineering from REC Srinagar, did very good in computers, and at that time computers were a new thing in 90s. And he was a person, he went to USA and documented almost everything of Kashmiri Pandits, whether it is uh, you can say literature, political treatises, books, genocides, and he has documented these 7 genocides with references, with books. I.net Kashmir. You can ask the person, or Kashmiri Pandit Network is a website. Kashmiri Pandit Network is a website that gives you plethora of information about Kashmiri Pandits. And the book Kashmir Underground was published by Har Anand Publications. Har Anand Publications. And I will try to see if I will have a PDF or I can create the PDF, and I promise that I will submit it to you so that you are able to disseminate, so that scholarship on genocide is encouraged. So you are able to get it trickle it down to the masses. What happened there are Aborigines of Kashmir by I can say Colonel Tikku's book is also available. He has done a wonderful work. We should appreciate. The only thing in good scholarship is that you should acknowledge the scholars who have done the good work. And there are many people who have done the great work. But this Kashmiri Pandit Network is an important website. And it gives you almost every information you want about the Kashmiri Pandits at the click of a finger.
I think you mentioned that you will coordinate getting a PDF copy, and I will take care of that. There is another message which you would like to read, with no offense to you. To collectively lay blame on Indian subcontinent is not correct, because what the lack of response by people is true of any unfair, inhuman treatment anywhere in the world. I think what she's trying to convey is, we understand.
What she's trying to say?
She's trying to say that it's Bosnia Herzegovina, quite a few places, same inhuman treatment is happening all over.
Okay.
No, but she also added one more. That said, we really feel sad and bad that we were unaware of what happened till recently.
I would like to answer that. Basically, Kashmir is not Bosnia Herzegovina or any other, or I have never said in this discussion so far, Indian subcontinent. I have not used this word. I think I have not. You can run this recording later on. I have not read this, said this word Indian subcontinent. What I said, only one thing, that in Kashmir, what has happened, I said it's political class. Indian political class comprising of left, right, and center. They collaborated, they created collaborators and subversives because they nurtured their subversion or separatism through seditious Article 370. And what I bluntly say, that is my cardinal principle, or the matter of my faith, the matter of my, you can say, thesis, is that what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir or in the Himalayas is the desanskritization of the Himalayas. So Indian subcontinent, I didn't say. So we have to reverse this desanskritization by establishing dharma, dharmasthanas. And dharmasthanas can be established only when dharmis are restored to their places. You cannot have the dharmasthana without the dharmis, and you cannot have the temple without the deity. So same happens. It's what I try to say. Place consciousness has been violated and aesthetics has been violated. I didn't say subcontinent. Yes, what happened in Bosnia, what is very, very challenging is that my first question as a genocide victim, not as a learner, is that why it happened in the first place. Jammu and Kashmir is like any other state of India, and it happened under the very nose of secular India, that Kashmiri Pandits were made to displace within their own country. They are only just 3% minority in Kashmir. In rest of India, Hindus are a majority. So 3% minority was displaced. There was no hue and cry. So isn't it a shame that people are displaced within the country? They are not a Bangladeshis refugees. They are not Pakistani refugees, Hindu refugees who will be made to flee. Why Hindus or the Indians are being made to flee in their own nation, motherland, from their homeland, crossing their own borders, and then are labeled as migrants? As this establishment in Jammu and Kashmir calls us migrants. They are Kashmiri migrants. Migrants are the people who leave their places for the search of job or livelihood, or they are migratory birds. Kashmiri Pandits are the people who have been displaced within the boundaries of their nation, that is India. Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir is within India. So they are neither migrants. So to say that it happens everywhere is wrong. Because if somebody from Karnataka gets displaced, is thrown out into Andhra Pradesh, do we call that it happens everywhere? No. I wish that nobody is displaced within the borders of his own country. That is the pain, actually. Why the people were displaced within their own country? That's when this whole Bharat is one. Do you mean to say that Kashmir is outside India, so it's logical to throw you out? No, not at all.
No, that's what one of your community members mentioned to me, that we cannot talk about Afghanistan today. I don't think we can have a series on Afghanistan. Mandodaris, that name existed, all that we can't be talking anymore because it's all gone, done deal. Die is cast and over. But Kashmir is not the same story. It is within India.
Exactly.
So we should be talking about it. I think that makes sense. And now you talked about desanskritization. I remember we talked about this earlier. Desanskritization is happening in India. Yes, understandably, we know that. Why is it wrong?
I think it's a self-explanatory question. Let me make it clear. There are many misconceptions about desanskritization. Most of the people understand it from the lens of M.N. Srinivas, who was a sociologist. For him, Sanskritization was Brahmanization, actually. Okay? So he tried to make an equalitarian society. He was influenced by many things. You can say Marxian order, whatever. My concept of desanskritization is not what M.N. Srinivas said. When I say Sanskritization, I say that you are violating the Sanatan ecosystem of the Himalayas. You are violating the Kashmir Shaiva Darshana. You are violating what Ayurveda gave you in Kashmir, what Sanskrit grammar gave you. So Sanskrit for me here is not only language. Sanskrit for me is an equivalent of Sanatan Dharma or the fountainhead of Sanatan, because Sanskrit is not a mere language system. It's a society. You can say the original language of Kashmir was Sanskrit. People used to talk in Sanskrit and then it got ruptured to Prakrit. Shyamaraja, one of the leading polymaths of Kashmir, in his Loka Prakash, gives a wonderful description how Kashmiri Pandit society or the Kashmiri society was down north. They talked in Sanskrit. It was our lingua franca. They talked in that language. Okay, so ladies used to talk Sanskrit, and there were all documentations, the prayers. It was a day-to-day language. So how it got this? It was one thing. So everything was working within the Sanskrit tradition, not only language, the ritual system, the behavior, the salutations, the whole ecosystem, the name, place naming. So Sanskrit for me is not only language, it's an ecosystem. The enemy knows that if you have to control the northern frontier of India, you have to demolish the Sanskrit tradition. Once you demolish the Sanskrit tradition, how? You have to displace the Sanskritists. Sanskritists are the adherents of Sanatan Dharma or the Sanskritization. Automatically, this unhinging of Sanskrit Himalayas will take place. And what will happen? It will change the balance of power in the Himalayas, because there are two axes which are fighting. One is Pakistan Anglo-American axis. One is Pakistan Sino-Anglo axis. They are working in tandem. They may be at war with each other outside India, but when it goes to break India, balkanize India, they are working in tandem to share the booty. So they want to control the Himalayas. Displacement of Kashmiri Pandits is not just displacement of Kashmiri Hindus or Dharmis. It's basically the unhinging of Indian frontiers in the Himalayas, so that the Pakistan's design, guided by the you can say Muslim crescent, is to take the borders of Pakistan down to the east, across Shivaliks, so that the people used to think, give away Kashmir and then there will be peace with Pakistan. No, Pakistan wants to extend these borders up to the Ravi, that's up to the Jammu and Rajouri. That's why we recently saw the attacks. Because Pakistan has not settled the question of partition. They say that it's an unsettled question of partition. Because they know it's not only Jammu and Kashmir, they want to control the Himalayas so that India is held in pincer and its balkanization is created. It's only the Cabinet Mission 2.0 plan. Cabinet Mission was foiled because, let me tell you, Cabinet Mission plan was drafted, architected by a congressman called Abul Kalam Azad and laterly implemented by the British. But I don't know how good sense prevailed upon Nehru, and he gave away the rejected Cabinet Mission plan, and Jinnah was upset. So that called for basically the Muslim zones, majority zones. The same way, there had been a proposal of non-territorial settlement during Vajpayee's era that started from Gujral era, graduated in Manmohan era, and I call it Gujral, Manmohan, Vajpayee, Musharraf plan that calls for the freezing of the borders and ultimately take Jammu and Kashmir out of the political and constitutional ambit of India and create a greater Muslim Kashmir. So that is what is the challenge. That was a Cabinet Mission Plan 2.0. So we must understand this desanskritization is being implemented to create balkanization for India, because enemy knows if India is India, Bharat is Bharat. It's because of the Sanskrit ecosystem. To basically, if you want to demolish India, you want to vivisect India, you want to balkanize India, you have to dislodge the Sanskritists, adherents of the Sanskrit tradition from the Himalayas, so that subversion is easy, dismantling of northern frontier is easy, and the borders are shifted towards the east of the Ravi.
So besides so many things that Pandit community lost, Sanskrit is another one, right? I don't think many Kashmiri Pandits are fluent in Sanskrit anymore, to the extent we find that in the rest of India.
Exactly. When you lose your place, you ultimately lose your moorings and consciousness. And what happens? You adapt to the new ecosystem. And while adapting, you try to survive, the survival instincts change. For example, if some 50 years back, agriculture was the buzzword for the new graduates, then computer became the new buzzword in the 90s. So you give up the fundamentals. You give up the fundamentals, fundamental texts, fundamental grammars, and ultimately same happens. And more dangerous is it because when the enemy knows, if you have to win over India, get it desanskritized. Because you have not allowed it to flourish. You have not patronized it. Not only the language, the Sanskrit system, the way of worship, the way of doing your day-to-day work is also a Sanskrit tradition. The Griha Sutras, the Kalpa Sutras, this is a Sanskrit tradition. The way you approach your daily life, that is a Sanskrit tradition. So there is a greater danger. It's not only when you say desanskritization, it means that you are draining blood out of the Hindu system or the Indian system. When blood is drained out, what's left out? When there is no hemoglobin, you are not going to breathe. There is no oxygen. Enemy knows, let us say that this you are desanskritizing. That's very good. You are modernizing. So our Hindus who don't understand what Sanskrit tradition is, what Sanskrit ecosystem is, they are calling themselves modernists, liberals, or whatever. In the meantime, what is happening? With desanskritization, what happens? A new crop of Abrahamic tradition is taking the place. That there is a harvest of the souls going on. These Hindus, especially, I am very so sad. The Hindus who say like this, they are basically mercenary arms, show boys of the Abrahamic tradition, who are there out to use the Indian system, the Indian constitutional system, even Indian educational system, the university system, to impose this subversion, using Hindus to desanskritize it, to prove themselves modernist. But in the end, Hindus ending up as animals who have no souls, just only bodies. That's what desanskritization is.
No, very well said. Thanks for that explanation. Just like people go to France or Germany for higher education in French and German, Kashmir should have been the place for higher education or higher seat of learning, not just languages, the entire culture which is completely gone. That is really very sad. Every time I talk to Kashmiri Pandit community, not only they have the history at their fingertips, but they have that zeal and that spirit quite alive talking about this. So coming back to what we talked earlier, etched in their memory, people of your age. Now she said needs to be discussed on all commercial TV channels in vernacular language with subtitles to get the message. What percentage will be watching, I don't know.
True.
Now I wanted to share with you something else. The other day I was watching a similar program on genocide. One speaker mentioned, which was very, very relevant. He mentioned today, with the change in demographics in Kashmir, people are not used to Kashmiri Pandit community at all. So they don't know who they are. It is completely changed. So that is why the turmoil is happening. Now they find you are all like strangers. And another one was telling me that when he visits Kashmir, the kids were looking at them, oh, look at these people, they are speaking Kashmiri. They look like for outsiders. Same Kashmiri Pandit community. That has become the situation today, right? Is that the reason why the entire demographic changed and they are not used to living with the neighbors like this before?
That is something I told you in the beginning. I will have to repeat that. The Kashmiri Pandits, they came out of the valley. They were 3% scattered here and there, but they had their localities intact. And there were people who used to go outside Kashmir on certain livelihood issues. That was prior to 90s. It happens everywhere. In Karnataka, in Himachal Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, one family member goes here and there. That's a matter of, you can say, choice. That's not displacement. But what I'm trying to say, when over the 32 years, a state has not been evolved a policy, they have tried to link Kashmiri Pandit issue with employment. Recently, Kashmiri Pandit employees, Hindu employees, they are sitting on, you can say, a protest for 250 or more days, because when our parents were in job, they retired, they superannuated, and what happened? Those vacancies were there. They were never filled for 20 odd years. And imagine the backlog. 3% is not a big deal, but they never opened it. What happened in the meantime? Who were eligible, they got overaged. And ultimately, government at that time thought of a very sinister machination or a nefarious strategy. Let us exploit the Pandits and create a semblance of peace in Kashmir and creating a rehabilitation return process. They said, you go there and stay there, and we are going to give you employment on merit, of course, certain government employees from class 4, 3 to 4, and they normal employments. They were asked to sign a bond, SRO 412, where they were said that you cannot leave the valley under any conditions, though they were given temporary appointments, these accommodations. What they sold to the people, when these 3,000 or 2,000 people, for the sake of livelihood, went there, they were, government started a propaganda at that time that the Kashmiri Pandits have returned. This was not a return. You can see the machination that no locality, no home, in prefabricated structures, 2-3 families living. They were already in camps or accommodations here. Now the family was again displaced to that place without having no ecosystem. So what happened? And ultimately, when targeted killings started taking place from 2-3 years, they came out. They were being killed. Now the government says, no, you go back. You signed the bond. You are liable. And people should know that these are supernumerary posts, actually. Nobody is telling the truth. So what I mean to say, that return and rehabilitation was linked with employment. It means that they were treated as bonded laborers. A genocide victim was treated as bonded labor and thrown there. And now my answer is that when there are no localities, no homes, where you are going to make them sit? They can go as tourists, but being a tourist, even a tourist from India goes, hey, Kashmir is very good, they are very hospitable, that's good. But show me how many Indians have been able, leave aside Kashmiri Pandits, say other Hindus, have they been able to start living as inhabitants? No. So demographics is one thing. You need an ecosystem because everything has been destroyed. Temples have been destroyed. What is the only way out? The only way out is that you have to create an ecosystem where you need to settle them with full empowerment. That's employment is one issue, religion is one issue, culture is one issue, education is one issue. If you want to restore them, don't double displace them. And if you indulge in such things, then I'm very sorry to say, from genocide it qualifies to democide. Genocide is when one religious group, a majoritarian group, imposes right, murder, arson on one community. Democide is when one state sponsors or bails out that genocide. It becomes
So it's
democide.
not like treating them like a migrant labor,
Yes.
bringing them.
So
Yes, that's the
Kashmiri
point.
Pandits are victims of democide and genocide. Genocide by the religious jihadi groups, democide by the state, which says that you have to go back, whatever go, whether there is infrastructure or no infrastructure, you have to stay, get killed. They are not going to give you protection because they are not understanding the logic that 3% minority is not going to sustain when you are not giving them an ecosystem which is self-sustainable, self-governable.
No, there are. I've also talked to few diaspora members working on massive plans in, starting uh, technology park or starting universities or starting hospitals, because Kashmiri Pandit community is experienced in every field that you can think of in India as well as abroad. So that could be also thought of as an solution to this Kashmiri Pandits return, getting themselves established, not treating them like you said, rightly said, migrant labor situation. So, but these are not going to happen. We all know, and not Monday morning or next year or so. So, don't know how this is going to be resolved.
Yes, I told you, my grandmother passed away, my father passed away. I am the third generation, fourth is already running. So, you rightly said, there is no sensitization. Because what a paradox it is that people are displaced. You can leave aside they are Hindus. Let us say they are Indians. They are displaced within India. And people say that it happens everywhere. It happens to you. What is the difference? They don't understand Jammu and Kashmir is a state of India. So people for 32 years never knew it because there was no social media and other things. People never wanted to understand. There was subversion. But now, if the ecosystem has generated, the thing is that genocide studies should be important, very important in curriculum. As you have moral education, you have certain other issues, computer education paper, we should have genocide studies so that the people are not subjected to same crime. So I would go beyond that. India should have prevention of genocide and atrocities law, so that what happens to Kashmiri Pandits, it should not happen to any other community anywhere, or any other Hindu anywhere, or any other human anywhere. So India should have genocide and atrocities prevention law that should guard the same right to life and limb of the people. That's very important. And universities should now think of having courses on genocide, having courses on religious cleansing. This is the reality after World War II. And when how jihadi setup uses democratic system to perpetuate genocide, that is very dangerous thing. And you have to understand, you have to create internal mechanisms so these kind of things don't get repeated. Genocide should not be allowed to replicate. When you leave it trivialized, you deny it, you totally deny it, it gets duplicated. So to save humanity, Sanatan Dharma upholds the human life. Life is divine. That's what Sanatan Dharma says. That's what is the message of Sanatan Dharma. That treat every human life as the God's gift and use it for the welfare of the society, welfare of the cosmos, welfare of the every being, whether living or non-living. So when this message goes through, India should be the trendsetter in having genocide and atrocities prevention law at any cost, so that what happened to Kashmiri Pandits should not happen to everyone. It's not the matter of that only reversal. It's a matter of that we should not allow this sin to happen to humanity again.
That's wonderful. I'm sure people who are listening to this are taking notes, and hopefully change is coming. You don't see there is some changes happening now compared to what used to be before. The killings are coming down, and It is now resorting slowly to just street corner type of a thing, not a massive killing. Those are almost gone, don't you think?
I think that sensitization is taking. I could not hear. I think there was some network issue.
No, what I was saying that slowly it is coming down. No, situation is under slowly get coming under control. Not much of a killing that we have seen, even though it happened recently. Not that kind of a killing happening. So like 6 months ago, it used to be reported, but not anymore. Looks like you didn't hear me, huh?
No, I didn't hear you. Yes, please.
No, I was just saying that things are improving, right? Slowly.
Well, let me answer that. I said that Kashmiri Pandit employees who were sent under this Prime Minister's package to Kashmir are sitting for Dharna in Jammu, outside Kashmir in Jammu. It's another part of this union territory now, for more than 250 days. Why? Because targeted killings have taken place. Recently, there was an incident in Rajouri. So the jihadis had not lowered their guard, because what is the barometer of peace in Kashmir? Or if you ask me, barometer of peace in Kashmir is when you restore the habitat of Kashmiri Pandits. The killings, the frequency of killings or frequency of incidents, jihadi incidents, is not any barometer of peace, and tourism is not a barometer of peace. Because I say that when you are saying tourists are going, what you are nurturing, I think you are pumping money for subversion. They get money to subvert. So my point is that targeted killings have been taking place. You have to give foolproof security to the employees, even employees under package, for 250 days if they are protesting. They have give you eyewitness accounts what is happening. It's not only matter of killings. The society is subverted. The undercurrents are different. The majoritarian community is paramilitary society. So how we can say that it's safe? There was all hope after 370 that next step will be taken. Until and unless we take the next step after neutralization of 370 and 35A to create the social, political, and economic infrastructure in Kashmir, to give Kashmiri Pandits a foothold where they have governance rights, political rights, educational rights, these things will happen. And targeted killings are on. These are on. Only yesterday, some person,
Yes,
he was
yes.
having this shop, medical shop in Kulgaon, and TRF has given that we tried to kill him, but he could not kill him because he's a Mukbir. Every Kashmiri Pandit is turned as a spy of India, and so he had to be killed. So what he had done, he was with the medical shop. Earlier one, Mr. Bindru was killed. There was one, and Krishna Daba man, he was from Jammu, he was killed. And teachers, so many teachers who went under unemployment package, they were killed. So this, you have to understand that Kashmiri Pandits are not victims of natural calamities like earthquakes, floods, or you can say fire. They are the victims of man-made calamity called jihad. It's a religious war. It's not a proxy war. You cannot deny this war. You have to fight this war. Call the enemy by its name. Call the disease by its name. And then only you can find the treatment. Only then you can restore Pandits. Not only Pandits, but India and Kashmir. Article 370 is the neutralization of Article 370 is the opening of the floodgates for that. The next step is to restore the Kashmiri Pandit homeland in Kashmir.
Now, can you say just one simple parameter could be comparing how we all live outside other places in India?
Exactly.
Like the way we live, our neighbor is a Muslim and we have Christians around.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful, you have given a comparison, because how we treat the minorities in rest of India, the same way minorities should be treated in Kashmir at par. They have the equal rights. So you have to understand, very well said, that there are certain pockets, and Jammu and Kashmir is one where Hindus are in minority. So what would have been the responsibility of the majority? The way Hindu majority has been treating with humanity you can say minorities in India, that would have been the best. But that test has failed. If that test has failed,
we treat minorities far better than any other state here.
Yes, absolutely. There's a good record. I absolutely agree with you. So that's why I say that if that has failed, and you have already subjected them to genocide, then the alternative model is that give them a foothold. Even Pandavas said that we need 5 villages. If you are not giving us, then we'll go for the Mahabharata. Lord Krishna has also said in the Mahabharata that ultimately, if it has to be avoided, if this thing has to be, this whole 7 Exodus thing, we don't want the 8th one. We have been The six happened almost when India was not a democracy. It was not independent. Now it's a democracy. It's totally governed by modern laws. If this happens in this time, then what is the difference between the ancient times and the present times? This time, Kashmiri Pandit wants to go back so that he is not again subjected to genocide. He or she is not subjected to another kind of persecution. He is not made to flee. Not flee, I can say he is not thrown out again. He is not religiously cleansed again. That should be the policy this time. Otherwise, treating employment package employees as the barometers of peace and guinea pigs or sandbags, it's only going to create exponential genocidal problem that is leading to democide.
Yeah, it can't be the case like we see migrant labor here in Tamil Nadu. We find
Exactly.
people from Nepal coming, other states coming and working. That's not the same with Kashmiri Pandits, right? And then on this de-Sanskritization, there is one final note. I said de-Sanskritization is happening in India. It's not good for the country. What you said is correct. That is what I meant. Ajita Subramaniam. So I think we have to close now. Thank you once again. Hope to see you once you recover from this, difficult times and loss of your father. Hopefully, time will heal, give you peace of mind soon. And I think
It was very difficult
just
for me to speak. Let me tell you, I was not in a position to speak, but
I
it
could
was all
see that
Father's motivation.
the
Last time when we had different programs, he watched the recordings later. He asked me to show because he wanted the blessings. He said, "These are blessings of His Holiness. I want to go through it." Today, again, he wanted me to go through it because and show me the recording. Unfortunately, he's not here, but this is my tribute to him. This whole episode is dedicated to him. I hope from heavens he is showering blessings.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mahesh ji. And once you get settled after a couple of months, please come back and then we
Sure.
will monitor the progress, whether what we have been talking, whether it's helping us and the community anyway. Thank you so much,
Pranam. Pranam.
Pranam ji.
Pranam.
Thank you, viewers. I just wanted to mention to you that next week there is going to be Vitasta Festival. That is a festival on Kashmir at Kalakshetra Adyar. It's being organized along with the central government on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That is starting from 27, 28, 29, 30. Some of our speakers are going to be there. If you are around in Chennai or if you want to plan a trip to Chennai, please come and then join. That is going to be interesting session. I'm sure flyers will be out next couple of days and will be circulated all over in WhatsApp. Next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that is 27, 28, 29, and 30th. That is concluding on Monday, 30th of January. So please join and we look forward to seeing you. We conclude our session today and want to thank Kanchi Mutt channels, YouTube, Facebook, and also Kamakoti.tv, which is streaming our series live every Saturday. Now we meet once in every 2 weeks. Also want to thank VDSP, Dinamalar, India's only leading Tamil newspaper that is giving coverage to all our Kashmir series. I also want to thank Srinivasan of Kanchi Mutt, who is meticulously making notes of all our audio and putting it in text form, like a PDF file. So he has already done quite a few and he is working on the project. Maybe we'll be able to publish all that one day, which is a great research material for people who are going to take up PhD work on Kashmir. There is so much to uncover from that treasure house. So we will keep you informed. So thank you again, Srinivasan sir, for taking this much interest. Now, please share more information. About the book and all, I'll follow up. I was just mentioning about Kalakshetra Festival on Kashmir, Vitasa. That is next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days. And it's over on 30th of January. If you're around, please join us at Kalakshetra Kashmir Festival. Once the flyers are out, we will be circulating to you all. We thank you all for watching our Kashmiri series. Look forward to seeing you early part of February. Jai Jai Shankara, Hare Hare Shankara.